Hey, what's up, guys? This is Johnny, and welcome to episode 21 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. Today, I'm with Aaron Tschirhart. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, glad to be here in beautiful Chiang Mai.
Yeah, nice. But where are you living at now, Aaron?
So I live in, actually I'm based out of Chengdu, Sichuan province, China, and I'm just over here on vacation, plugging away spending some hours working on my business.
Yeah, very cool. And you kind of accidentally found this community, and we kind of accidentally met each other today. How did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it was just we're sitting beside each other here at Pun Space.
Yeah.
And it's a cool kind of communal working space in Chengdu. It's something that I really hope one day to bring to Chengdu from Chiang Mai rather here, and just see how it goes.
But you're not originally from China, obviously.
No.
I mean, I guess people that can't see the photo, they don't know. But where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm originally from St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, and so about a year and a half ago, I moved. Actually, I was living in Alberta in Canada. I moved over to China to start studying Chinese with an intent of building a business in China. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. So, I mean, in today's episode, I definitely want to pick your brain about Bitcoin and how you're making money from that now. But it's pretty interesting that you left Alberta, you left Canada, where there's tons of oil money and there's tons of big profits out there. What made you leave that scene?
Yeah, I think that, in Alberta, I was working for an oil company and making a very good salary for Alberta or anywhere in the world. But sitting, just watching the dollar figures kind of go up in your bank account wasn't good enough for me. And I think that when you're young, it's better to spend that time investing in a business, even if you're making nothing. And it's better because you're building your expertise and you're building your understanding. And then over time, your income will grow.
Yeah, we were talking about it over lunch. I was mentioning that I moved to Thailand 4 years ago, and it took me 4 years to figure out how to make money from it. But it wasn't just thrown away. It was 4 years of learning what works, what doesn't work, building up my skill set, and also kind of having some fun and traveling while I was doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I'm at right now. So I guess I studied Chinese for a year, and then I've been working on building the entrepreneurial scene in Chengdu and working on setting up my business and trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do. Because when I came over, I didn't have any plans. I just knew that I wanted to start a company. And I needed to figure out exactly what the best opportunity was. And it turns out it's in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah, I really feel like it's going to blow up. We were talking a little bit earlier during lunch saying that the Bitcoin movement is basically like the gold rush of San Francisco in, was it 1849 or?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And we're going to talk a lot about ways to actually make money aside from just buying something Bitcoins. But I'm curious about this entrepreneur scene. And where is Chengdu for people that don't know?
So, Chengdu is in West China. So if China was a dartboard, it would be the bullseye kind of thing. So it's actually a city of 14 million people. There's 100 million people in Sichuan. So there's kind of there's a big market there to begin with. And then over the last couple of years, it's actually become an R&D facility for about half of the Fortune 500 companies. So it's kind of a hotbed in a sense for hardware production as well. With Intel is set up there. They have, I guess, most of the world's iPads are made there at a Foxconn facility. And so there really is an opportunity there, I guess, to access some of this talent that, living in Alberta and Canada, it's really hard to come by some good engineers.
Yeah, it's crazy. I never knew that China had like an entrepreneur IT scene. It's definitely not going to be in Beijing or Shanghai. And speaking of which, I mean, those two cities, even if I made $250,000 a year or more, I don't think I would live there. But Chengdu sounds like it's a lot more livable.
Yeah, Chengdu is a really, it's a relaxed city. I think it has the most bars per capita in China, and it's or bars or tea houses, and so it's kind of it's known as a lazy city, if you will. Like it's flat. You can bike everywhere within like an hour just on a bicycle. So the food is really good.
Yeah, I've heard of like Sichuan food or Sichuan food. It's supposed to be super spicy but super flavorful.
Yeah, and there's and there actually is kind of like an underbelly of really interesting people that are setting up businesses and trying to chase their dreams.
You know, the only thing that really scares me about living in China is how greedy everybody, I mean, especially like the locals, can be in regards of wanting to make money and not caring really about health or, you know, the overall good of people. Do you feel that at all in Chengdu?
Sometimes it's a little bit challenging with the pollution and that kind of thing, but I think over time it will become better, and the government's taking some steps towards it. But it certainly is a challenge, like having kind of living in a bit of a polluted environment where you've got to wear a face mask that makes you look like a character from Mortal Kombat in order to go out and cruise around on your bike. But you know, anywhere it has its pluses and minuses, and I really do enjoy it there in Chengdu.
Yeah, I'm glad you found a cool part of China that you like to be based out of. I'm actually getting ready to leave Chiang Mai, at least for the next couple of months, just because we actually have a pollution season out here, which is really end of February to the middle of middle of April. So it's for those 2 or 3 months. It's really smoky and polluted, and it's terrible. It's fortunately it's not as bad as like Beijing would be. But it's bad enough where you're like, why am I here? Especially when I can go on a vacation somewhere else. So, you know, if everyone listening, kind of stay tuned. I'm not sure, I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to go yet, but I'm definitely going to go somewhere for at least a couple months just to escape the pollution. I heard a quote the other day. It was one of those things that people pass around Facebook. It was really simple, but I posted on my friend's wall, and it basically said, if you don't like where you are, move. You're not a tree.
Bang, there it is.
You know, but that's what's cool about this lifestyle, right? Is we can do this online business, we can, you know, move locations, and we can reset up somewhere else, and within days, I mean, or even hours, we can have a network of entrepreneurs, which we're building in Chengdu, and I never even knew existed in China. You can have access to co-working spaces, and you know, everything's set up. You don't need to rent an office. You don't need to set up any infrastructure. It's all there. What is that like in Chengdu?
So in Chengdu, it's kind of in the early stages. There's a couple really successful startups that have kind of came out of they have this place called the Tianfu Software Park, it's a software park where they have a lot of different businesses doing R&D facilities, and it's kind of set up like a university campus, if you will. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of successful Chinese startups that came out of there. There aren't any foreign-based successful startups out of Chengdu yet. But I guess I've kind of stumbled upon, basically by accident, organizing like a monthly meetup to have entrepreneurs come and talk to each other and just networking, and kind of from that starting to build some other like some events and some kind of a community around the entrepreneurial scene in Chengdu. So I think over the next 5 or 10 years, we are really going to see kind of a growth there, and hopefully, you know, my business will be one of the successful ones.
Yeah, best of luck to that. Definitely. I saw some photos of some of your, you know, weekly entrepreneur meetups in Chengdu. How do people find you guys?
Yeah, so we actually we host a monthly meetup kind of thing where I guess we have a couple guest speakers that'll come, and people find us from many different ways. Just from friends, or from like online advertising, or somebody joined yesterday, and they said they found us through the lean startup meetups. I didn't even know we were on there, but I guess we are.
Nice. Yeah. Or even just meetup.com.
Through meetup.com is the main like center for organizing it.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. No matter what city you're in the world, if you want to meet kind of like-minded online entrepreneurs, just start by Googling the city and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And just start meeting people in person, right?
Exactly. And the thing that was really interesting for me is like I guess I started organizing this meetup just to meet people, But then as soon as I started meeting people, then more things kind of started evolving, and it's like, so we had a human-centered design kind of presentation that a local startup, I guess like head designer was interested in doing, but his English isn't that good, so we did it together. And then it was like, okay, well, if you're willing to organize this course, I'll lead a course on human-centered design. And I'm a guy that's really interested in learning how to build these products. And so that's where we're kind of offering this free design course to people. And as soon as I kind of started, then other business opportunities just started coming out left, right, and center. And that's where I am right now.
And that's really like the best way to get things going is just to meet people in person. And you'll be surprised, I mean, how willing people are to help each other. I mean, I really just enjoy helping people out if I meet them in person. If I meet someone online, I might spend some little bit of time, looking at their site and sending them a couple, tips through email. But I'm not gonna spend a weekend or hours of my time helping them if I don't really know them. But once you meet someone in person, even if they're they would normally be a stranger, I mean, people love to help each other.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that I found interesting as well. Is like I guess through this kind of format, I went out there and I just said, all right, listen, like I'm interested in doing business consulting. I'll do it for free. Like I'm willing to help any startup that could use kind of like a Western perspective. And so I learned some really interesting things working with like a number of different startups, just helping them kind of with some problems that they were tackling.
What you were showing us earlier during lunch, the handshake business agreements in Tibet.
Yeah,
that is really cool. I never even heard of that. Can you tell everyone listening like a little bit about what that is about?
Yeah, so basically, I guess I was doing some volunteering consulting on a business feasibility for this nonprofit. They were setting up some like greenhouses in high altitude, kind of like above 4,000 meters, the Tibetan Plateau, part of Sichuan. And how they actually do business deals in Tibet is it's actually a secret handshake. And so it depends on like how many fingers, and like if you go like a half turn or a full turn, or like they know exactly how much they've kind of agreed upon, where it's hidden under their sleeve. And so for me, like doing business like that is really different, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just cool.
That's crazy. So, obviously you have to use your imagination a bit, but imagine these guys have these, big sleeves. So when they're shaking hands, you can't actually see their fingers. And based on the way they shake each other's hands, and I guess they probably make some kind of eye contact as well, they are agreeing upon a price to be paid for something. And I'm sure this used to be for, selling a goat or selling things like that. And say, how much were you going to give me for this goat? And instead of verbally trying to argue about it, he just does the secret handshake. I mean, the bro shake, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Bitcoins. All right, everyone's talking about Bitcoins now, and nobody really knows what's going to happen with it. It could be forever, and it could be 5-10 years from now. People can just assume like, oh, what do you mean? Bitcoins is just another currency. It's like PayPal. People didn't know PayPal was going to be around this long, and now everybody has it, and it's very stable. So that could happen with Bitcoins, or it could just die out, and nobody knows. But one thing we do know is there is money to be made in Bitcoins. And you started a company doing basically just that, selling.
Yeah, so I guess I've recently entered into a partnership with another Chengdu-based entrepreneur where we're working on developing. Initially we're selling some hardware and working on developing our own actual Bitcoin mining hardware. And so just to give you a little more background, I guess essentially Bitcoin mining is just you have a purpose-built computer where it's doing advanced mathematical calculations, trying to figure out the solution of the puzzle, and then they release 25 Bitcoins every 10 minutes kind of thing. And so if you join into one of these mining pools, and if you have one of these computers, then you can start making money from the Bitcoins just by essentially mining.
So these like mathematical formulas, are these actually solving something that has never been solved before? Or is it some genius guy, knows the answers to these and put them out there?
So the mathematical formula actually has to do with the security of the Bitcoin. So they have something called the blockchain, which is a long, group of numbers. And in order to hack the Bitcoins, you need to figure out what the blockchain is. So basically, you have a 10-minute window where you can hack the current kind of Bitcoins. So essentially, it surrounds the actual security of the currency. That's what the purpose of the mining is.
It's so crazy. I mean, whoever invented Bitcoins is much smarter than I. So
yeah, me too.
I'll let them, deal with it. It seems like it works, and it seems like if you think about it, U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar, what is that actually based off of? Really nothing. Like really much less than the Bitcoin is based off of.
Yeah, and this is for me something that's really interesting. Like I studied economics in school, and so over the period of time, like they've used all kinds of things for currency. It's been from salt to tea to little, swords. It can be coins. It can be virtually anything. And what really matters is that you have confidence in that you'll be able to exchange it with somebody else. And so as long as people do have confidence in Bitcoins, then game on.
Yeah. And, obviously there's always going to be a risk in, really in anything. I mean, even the US dollar, there's a huge risk, because we kind of just print that out. I mean, it used to be backed by gold, then they changed it to silver, and then now it's backed by nothing. It's backed by the Federal Reserve, which I found out that isn't even a branch of the government. It's actually just this corporation that's there to make money and literally print money.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't have a problem with fiat currencies, and I think, any currency, it just depends on the confidence based on the current system. I know maybe at some point we'll have a big kind of shift, but I'm hoping that we won't have that in anywhere in our near future.
Well, but the good thing about Bitcoins is, so what do you think the big benefit of Bitcoins are worldwide?
I mean, a big part of it is about a third of all the bank's profits come from currency exchange. And so I was just doing some calculations today, transferring some money from my, basically from one PayPal account to another, and then transferring it down into my business bank account in Hong Kong. And just transferring it from US dollars down into Hong Kong dollars, we were looking at about 3.5%. And so that 3.5%, when you multiply it over a couple currencies, it's really huge. And with Bitcoin, you can actually transfer for as little as 0.3% or 0.1% into other currencies. And so it really does have a utility function of being able to kind of escape these the bank's currency exchange rates.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and especially now that there's a lot of e-commerce stores accepting Bitcoin. I don't know if a lot of them do it as kind of a gimmick to kind of get attention, but the fact is they are accepting it. And as soon as a company like Amazon or eBay starts accepting it, man, it's going to go huge.
Yeah, and actually we saw, I think last week here, the CEO of eBay came out and said he's a believer, and they're working on kind of integrating Bitcoin payment into that platform. So I think that when we have these big players coming online, hopefully we will have a kind of a sustained change here.
Yeah, I like that. So with the actual Bitcoins, you're selling the hardware.
That's right.
Okay, and you're also doing some mining on the side.
Yeah, that's right.
But what we were saying earlier during lunch is the real money in Bitcoins isn't just the actual mining of it. It's just like the gold rush back in, was it 1849 or 1949? It had to be 1849.
Yeah, I think it had to be 1849.
Okay.
Yeah,
because 1949 was like my dad was born then. Pretty sure he wasn't mining gold. But the real money that was made during that gold rush wasn't just the people mining gold. It was all the services based around supporting the people mining gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something else we were talking about at lunch, kind of the technological hurdle that there is associated with getting into Bitcoins or like mining Bitcoins. And so this is something where my business partner and I were working together on setting up some, writing manuals on how to actually install this hardware and set it up. And because it can be technically challenging. And so the challenge is to make it usable. And kind of come up with ideally what we're working on is an out-of-the-box solution where we can have a hardware unit that you can just take out, plug in, and you're off and running.
Yeah. So I actually had thought about, I made a big list of niches I wanted to get into when I was starting my e-commerce stores, and Bitcoin mining machines was on there. But the reason why I instantly crossed it off was for a couple of reasons. One, it's constantly changing hardware, so you always have to stay on top of things. If I sell, let's say, like a TV stand, that is going to be the same model TV stand for the next 10 years. It's probably not going to change very much. You're not going to update your site. With Bitcoin machines, every 6 months, every year, you're going to have to basically put out new models, and you're going to have to really stay on top of the hardware. Prices change all the time. So from an e-commerce store owner's point of view, it's a pain in the butt, especially if you want to keep inventory. You don't want to sit on a machine that 6 months from now is going to be obsolete. So mainly it was that. It was, if you want to be successful in it, you have to be really immersed in it like you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I'm kind of thankful that I've gotten, so my partner, Zach, on this, he's a Ruby on Rails programmer and really hard kind of Bitcoin enthusiast. And so I'm more kind of the business end of it. And so we're able to work together to kind of get this off the ground.
Yeah, that's definitely a perfect partnership. So in the old gold mining days, what were some of the possible services that made money? There was restaurants, like hotels or a combination, post office guys. Yeah, that all started from there. What else was there?
Let's see,
prostitutes.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of money. Bars.
I was there. Bars. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything to keep the miners happy. And what's interesting too is I used to live in a mining town in Canada.
Oh,
and in this place called Fort McMurray, Alberta, where I don't know, you've got girl to guy or a guy to girl ratio of probably like 5-1, something like this. And it's like the joke isn't like what's that? You got something in your pocket? No, it's not a banana. It's your wallet, right? And so yeah, it's been an interesting journey, kind of going from being in an oil mining town, if you will, because that's in the oil sands where they have to physically dig it up and then process it to get the oil out, into the world of Bitcoins.
Yeah, and it's I guess it's almost the same thing where before they used to mine for gold or mine for silver, and you can only mine so fast, and there's only so much silver, so it's not like overnight it's going to flood the market. And if it does, there's companies like De Beers where they control the flooding the market by doing all the mining and not letting all the diamonds get released so quickly. Mm-hmm. So with the Bitcoin mining, it sounds like I don't know any of the tech stuff behind it, but it sounds like they figure out a way to really control it so it doesn't flood the market too quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of been, I'd say, well planned out. It is still, the founders are anonymous behind it, but it's something that a lot of people all over the world have faith in. So, and I'm a believer.
I almost bought Bitcoins a couple years ago when I stumbled on this website called the Silk Road, which got some publicity recently. I think the owner got thrown in jail.
Yeah, that's Silk Road's now shut down, but it was I guess a place where you could buy and sell pretty well everything.
Yeah, it was the deep web, and I remember getting into it because somebody had mentioned it, and I didn't believe it existed. And they said, you can buy anything on here. You can buy rocket launchers, AK-47s. You can buy slaves. You can buy drugs. And I didn't believe it was there, so it really took me a long time to find it. And you couldn't even use your normal browser. You couldn't use Chrome or Internet Explorer. You had to have a special Tor browser to even see it. Anyways, so somehow I got in and I started looking around, and I'm pretty thankful I never actually ordered any illegal drugs on there, because I'm sure they're cracking down on everyone now. But the one thing that really sparked my interest was giving people microloans and having these crazy huge interest rate returns. And God knows what people are going to actually do with these loans. I'm pretty sure most of the loans were to drug dealers for them to buy a big stash of whatever drug they were peddling. And then when they sell it off, they pay you back with interest. And, from a business point of view, it made sense where they need the cash to buy a boatload of ecstasy pills or, a couple pounds of weed. And then when they sell it on the Silk Road or in person, they would have more than enough cash to give you money back and interest and buy more. So I actually tried to buy some Bitcoins so I can invest in these anonymous, drug dealers online. But it was so complicated to buy the Bitcoins. And I honestly just couldn't figure out how to do it. I somehow figured out how to get into this deep web, but I couldn't figure out how to buy a damn Bitcoin at the time.
Yeah, it's definitely a technological challenge in order to, just get in there. And that's where there's really an opportunity is to find a better way of doing it. And I don't know. So I was listening to the Entrepreneur on Fire podcast before, and one of the guests on there talked about the parable, like you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach a man a fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But the thing is, like, the guy just wants the fish. So if you can just find a way of giving him the fish a little, easier than him having to do it himself, then you can really find a niche that makes sense and that'll make money.
So here's a business for everyone listening right now. You figure out how to buy Bitcoins, set up a PayPal payment, button, and sell the Bitcoins at a premium.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll make everyone's job easier. That could be your e-commerce store. Go on Shopify, set up a little e-commerce store, do it through a PayPal, checkout button, whatever there is. Figure out these services around Bitcoins that make money, not necessarily mining it yourself. Because if you're trying to mine it yourself, it's a lot of work, all right?
Yeah.
The hardware's expensive, takes a lot of labor.
Well, the thing is, though, is like you can get into hardware relatively cheaply. The smaller USB sticks that you can buy now, you can get into it for maybe $50, or if you want to buy something a little more higher power, like $100 to $300, and you can have kind of like a small rig that'll be making you some money. So, but the challenge is when you're buying into like a mining tool, if you will. So the difficulty is always going up. So whatever you're going to be mining at, it's always going to be kind of decreasing as more machines come online. And the other thing too is that it's all based on the price of Bitcoins, which is very volatile. And so if you're going to make an investment, I would suggest making something that would be reasonable for you that you could actually lose, because it's not something that is a surefire thing. It is of a speculative nature, and you don't want to bet the house on it, right?
Yeah, but it's also kind of exciting at the same time. I think this is going to be one of those things where people are going to look back 5-10 years from now, and there's going to be millionaires made from Bitcoins.
Absolutely, and there already are. I was actually talking to my business partner today, and he was saying he met the guy. He didn't know he was the guy at the time. I guess the one guy in China that has the most Bitcoins out of everybody, and he's a teacher in Beijing. He decided to invest some money back in 2009, and now he's got over $100 million worth of Bitcoins.
Oh my God, that's insane! I so wish I would have bought some Bitcoins and loaned them out to these random dudes online.
Yeah, so I guess that's the challenge, right? Like, as trying to be a first mover, it can be really scary, but it can be rewarding too. So
it reminds me of I don't know if you ever played this board game called Cash Flow 101.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've been there.
Yeah, and there's this one stock opportunity where it was like super cheap to buy in that, and most people would just buy like 100 shares of it, even though they could bet the house on it. And the way I figured out how to kind of hack that game and be like a multi-millionaire is to take out crazy loans to buy this like cheap stock. And when you go to sell it, like, you just hit it big.
Yeah. And but then again, that's the challenge, right? Is like Bitcoin has risen pretty considerably over the last year, and so maybe it's time to wait for a dip, but only time will tell exactly where it'll go.
Have you seen that movie Wolf on Wall Street?
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it. It's on my things to do list.
Man, it is so good.
Yeah?
Like, I highly recommend this movie to everyone watching. It's 3 hours long, which seems insane. And you wonder two things before you watch it. One is, isn't there some stuff they could have cut out? And second, why didn't they split this into two movies? But when you watch it, you'll realize that there is nothing they could have taken out of this. It was a non-stop emotional roller coaster for 3 hours. And you don't even want to blink. Like, you're that excited for the entire time that you're just like, wow. My girlfriend that watched it with me, she needed to pee and didn't want to get up because she didn't want to miss anything. And she's not even into business or finance or stocks, but she loved it. So for me, for a guy that really likes money, oh man, I would go watch it again. I would sit through that 3 hour movie again in a heartbeat. And there's no way they could have split that into two movies, because it was just like this huge build up to this huge climax, and there's no way they could have just split in the middle.
So is that good?
That good, buddy.
Whoa, I'm on it.
All right, do it. And the movie theaters out here are super cheap. There's one down the street. This new mall just opened up called Maya, and it's, Chiang Mai had one mall before, or it had two. It had a really old, crappy one, and had the Airport Plaza Mall, which was decent. It was always decent. Nice cinema. But I heard they're opening 17 new malls in the next couple of years. Woo! So this city is blowing up. It's these malls are world class. They are better than the malls in California. Better than the Mall of America in Minnesota.
And it's the same thing in Chengdu, where I'm living in China. It's just exciting. Like in Canada, it took them a year. Where I used to live, it took them a year in order to build an overpass on like a 4-lane highway kind of thing. And in Chengdu, in the same period of time, they built a 4-lane double-decker highway around the city. And it's just, it's exciting. There's a pulse here in Asia that really, we don't have that going on in North America right now, where everything's kind of set. And things are moving so fast that the opportunities are just kind of endless in a sense.
Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of money to be made, a lot of money to be spent, and no regulations.
Yeah, we got some regulations in China. But yeah, I guess we won't dive into that topic today.
Okay. In case Mr. Mao there is monitoring us, I won't say his name. But out here, it's so it seems silly that we're excited about a mall coming up. Especially there's all these amazing things that aren't a mall. But what's nice about it is, first, they built the malls kind of all around the outside ring of the suburbs, like where the city turns into the suburbs. And what that does is it actually decreases traffic within the city, because it encourages more people to live a little bit further out of the city. But also the people with cars, they drive and park in these parking lots and malls outside. So I've already seen there be a traffic relief on these streets like where we are. This is Neiman Haman, because instead of people shopping here or eating here, they go they drive out of the city and go to the malls. So that's a great idea. Second, if you ever need anything, it's so easy to get it now. Like, one of the biggest complaints I had in the last 4 years I've been living here, and I know this is a big complaint in China, is just being able to buy quality stuff.
Yeah, but in China now, the rise of, and just to touch on that, online shopping is incredible. Like, unbelievable. Like, I can buy, so I'm from St. John, New Brunswick. Their Moosehead beer is brewed in St. John, New Brunswick. For an extra 25 cents, American cents, I can have a bottle of beer delivered to me in my house, ordered on the same day from JD.com, an online shopping site in China, individually packaged with free delivery, than I can actually in my hometown.
Wow. That is insane.
It's insane. They're killing it with online shopping in China, and I guess it has to do with a combination of free delivery and an excellent supply chain. And so it's really interesting to know that China's coming online big time to do with online shopping.
I'm glad that's happening, because for the past couple of years, everyone I knew that lived in China would complain that, let's say they wanted to buy a quality jacket. Let's say they want to buy a North Face jacket. Even though it was made in China, they wouldn't be able to buy it locally, or even at a mall locally. They would have to buy it from the US or from Canada and have it shipped back here. And often it was a lot more expensive than they had just bought it in the US in the first place.
Yeah, and that is a challenge as well. I guess some things are cheap in China, but when you're importing it, even if it is a made in China kind of brand or made in China product, it is very expensive for imports. And so that has to do with their taxation as well. Like, there's no sales tax, but there's a huge import tax. So that's how they kind of rock that.
Makes sense. Well, one nice thing about having these new malls pop up, there's stores that sell like clothes that actually fit Western people. That was also a big problem. Is living in Thailand, I was never able to really buy clothes besides kind of cheap knockoff stuff in the night market. And those are fun for souvenirs, but if you're wearing it every day and you just want, like, let's say you want a normal t-shirt, right? Let's say you want a normal V-neck t-shirt that normally you would buy at like H&M or like Gap, right? You can't buy it here, right? Like, it wouldn't fit. There's nowhere to buy it. But now that there's these malls, we have H&M, we have Uniqlo, we have all these stores. So really, there's nothing you really miss from back home anymore, and it's not any more expensive. And if you need to buy, let's say, you're really into kind of natural foods and like you want, or let's say I want to buy like, virgin coconut oil, if I want to buy like natural shampoos, you can buy all that stuff here now too, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another interesting thing. When I moved to China, when you think of kind of like West China, I guess when I first thought of it, I kind of thought, maybe a little bit of a poorer place, or like, but the wealth that's in the city where I'm living in Chengdu, it's absolutely incredible. Like you're just, and every day when you're walking down, you see like Bentleys and Rolls Royces and like, the occasional Maybach driving around, and like they just, as China's kind of risen, just the wealth is really incredible, and that's where a lot of these services and businesses come along in order to service, Western expats as well as like our wealthy Chinese. So if you do decide to move to China, you will pretty well have access to everything that you want to purchase and at reasonably about the same prices, maybe a little bit more for some imported goods. But it's not the China of old where it was only, chopsticks and noodles.
Well, it also depends on where in China you go. It sounds like Chengdu is a really great place. I had a friend, she was teaching English in Wuhan, most polluted place in China, and she said there was nothing there. It was really hard. It was hard. She would joke around about eating Wuhan pizza, or like, eating like,
AKA cardboard.
Yeah. So, I guess it really depends on that. I was in Shanghai exactly a year ago during Chinese New Year, and they had everything. They had great malls. They had, like fancy everything. But I just didn't like the environment. I didn't like how everyone valued money more than anything else. And I think that's why I really like living here in Chiang Mai is there's not, there's enough entrepreneurs out here, especially the Westerners, where you still feel driven, you don't get too lazy. But at the same time, people really value health. They value friendships. They value loyalty more than they value money, which isn't a big sense I get in China.
Yeah, what's interesting with the Chinese is like they're kind of hard to crack as like, meeting some friends and like that kind of thing. But like once you're friends for life. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of like it's very different culture. Like when somebody says to you, "Oh, you're looking fat," it's actually a compliment. It means I'm interested in your life. I want to, I'm interested in your well-being. It's not actually something negative. And so just because you have so many people in China at all, it's kind of like an integrated network of friends and relationships. And so I guess there is that love of money that's there, but it's not the only thing there.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with you with the culture-wise. When someone's like in your circle, they're your friend, you treat them like family, and they're really, really generous to each other. Every single time I eat food with a Chinese friend, first they always invite 5 other friends that become your best friends, and they never let me pay for the bill. They always fight for the bill, and they really try to help each other out. They really I guess because it's kind of like a us versus them kind of thing, where you're in my inner circle, so I'm gonna treat you like gold, and because everyone else out there is either trying to screw us or they can't, they're not part of this group.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the Chinese guanxi, like the relationship based kind of like if you're looking to do business in China, it's meeting someone and then building that relationship and kind of working together so that you can both kind of mutually gain, kind of works out.
I mean, that's a great business for anyone that wants to live in China, to develop these networks and basically just be the introducer. Like, so let's say someone in Canada or the US wants to do business in China. Instead of them getting ripped off in Alibaba with some code manufacturer plant that they don't really know, where they're just gonna nickel and dime you after you've committed. If you actually have a relationship, you have someone, your man on the ground in Chengdu, it makes it so much easier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to do with the quality standards too, like, I mean, you can go to any of these sourcing fairs and things, and you can buy a set of Bose headphones for anywhere from $1 to $200. And it basically what matters or what it depends on is the quality that you're purchasing. And so whenever you're doing business in China, the brand doesn't mean anything, but that's where you can add value in terms of doing some quality control and making sure that your customer is getting what they actually expect.
So that's great, China-based business. Let's talk a little bit more about the service-based businesses around Bitcoin. What are some possible business ideas, kind of like the services around mining? What services around Bitcoin do you see popping up?
I really like the services around making Bitcoin more accessible and easily transferred. So having to do with regional Bitcoin exchanges, I guess specific areas where you're working on servicing like a particular industry, and I think the real value there is by being able to build this alternative means of transferring money, is that you're able to save a substantial amount on the actual transaction in terms of currency exchange, and it's very easy to use.
How about an app for Shopify or BigCommerce that accepts Bitcoin as payment? I mean, you can be the next PayPal.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There you go, guys. That's a fucking $1 million idea right there. For those who don't know, so Shopify is the e-commerce platform I use, and it's used by thousands of people. And they used to be powered by Stripe for the payment system, and it wasn't built in. It was they were the platform, and then if you wanted to accept payment, you had to go through a third party, either PayPal, Stripe, or there's some other ones, and they were killing it so much. I mean, these companies like Stripe were taking 2.5% off of each transaction, over hundreds and maybe millions and millions of dollars worth of transactions, and they were making so much money that Shopify bought them out. And they said, look, you're making more money than us. Either we buy you out or become partners, or we're going to kick you off our system, and we're going to we're going to make our own, because they saw where the money is. So, follow the money, guys. And there's seriously, this is the next gold rush.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, really cool having you on the show. If people want to find you, where can they go?
Yeah, so AaronTschirhart.com, or you can find me on Twitter, Aaron Tschirhart, and that's TSCH, kind of like, it looks like T-shirt.
It actually does look like T-shirt. Actually, you know what? Go to travellikeabosspodcast.com and look for episode 21 in the show notes, and I'll have links to Aaron's website, his Twitter, and how to get in touch with him. And
yeah, if you're ever in Chengdu, or you're looking, to connect with some entrepreneurs in Chengdu or in Sichuan, just give me a shout. I guess I also offer like a free mentor-mentee matching service for people that are looking to actually sit down with someone more experienced to kind of give them a little bit of advice. And look forward to connecting with you. So.
Very cool. Well, thanks for being on the show, Aaron, and everyone. Thanks so much for all those positive reviews, for all those new five-star iTunes reviews, and for sharing the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I really appreciate you guys listening, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace out. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.